This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are, May the 5th, 2022, and celebrating my 600th interview. 600 since April of 2015. Not bad, not bad. Yes. And my guest just happened to hit me up this evening and got to be the lucky one to get this slot. And I said, sure, because, you know, I'm always open to hearing people's story. And the fellow I have on here tonight is an independent filmmaker making his first feature. We're going to be diving into that into detail. Folks, I give you Scott Hand. How do you do, Scott?
Good. How are you guys all doing?
Oh, not bad, not bad. We're starting to get into some warmer weather here. What's it like there in New Jersey?
Still a little chilly. You know, I'm right here on the beach. So, you know, we got that sea breeze.
You're not on the beach. You're sitting there in your house.
You know, when you live on an island, I got the beach on this side of me. I got the bay on the other side. So.
Like our version of Prince Edward Island, huh? Yeah. Well, you know what? You sent me a friend's request just here today, and so you had enough friends in common with me, so I said yes. Sometimes I'm skeptical of that, but you hit me up and told me about your project. Financially, I'm not in any place to assist these projects right now, but I am open to helping people promote them. Yeah. And so I'm glad to have you on here. And you told me you should send me your short clip of your short film, which I guess is expanding into a feature. And that's interesting because that's how films like Saw come into fruition. They started as a short film and then they become a franchise.
Right. It's hard to believe, you know, these things happen.
Yep. But before we dive into that, I would like some of your background, how you grew up and what got you interested in filmmaking.
Well, you know, I grew up here and I caught the movie bug early in life. My aunt had taken me to the movies when I was 7 years old to see Moonraker, you know, the James Bond movie at the time.
I would have been 7 when that came out.
Me too. So was I.
All right. Okay. We're both born in 1972, aren't we?
Yes, we are. You're right.
What month are you?
March.
Oh, you're four months ahead of me. I'm July.
So I got 4 months on you.
There you go. Okay, you're 50. I'm going to be 50. So there you go.
Yeah, well, right? The golden anniversary, as they say, I think, right?
Yep. Okay, you saw Moonraker. Okay.
Yeah, she took me to see Moonraker. And, you know, back in those days, we still had the old time classic movie theaters, you know, just a single screen, you know, there was like 1,400 seats in the theater. You know, the screen itself was 150 feet wide. And, you know, when you go into an experience like that as a 7-year-old, you know, and, you know, more than half the theater's full, you know, it really leaves an impression on you. Plus the movie, you know, I mean, for a 7-year-old kid, the movie was great, you know.
Well, you know what? It's interesting. We have a similar experience, but not in the movie theater for me. My folks used to take my brothers and I to the drive-in theater here because we used to act up quite a bit, you know, so they didn't want to take us to a theater. And I really didn't know anything about theaters at that time, but I still remember the first movie we saw at the drive-in, and it was in 1977. And it was Pete's Dragon.
I saw it in the theater, but yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
We saw Pete's Dragon at the drive-in, and I vaguely remember it. And other ones we saw all 3 of the Star Wars trilogy at the drive-in. That was something. We saw. I remember seeing E.T. at the drive-in.
Okay.
You know, we saw Raiders of the Lost Ark. We saw some Disney classics like Snow White and Bambi. I remember when we were going home from Bambi, it was like I just had this ugly feeling in the pit of my stomach because it was really my first exposure to death, the reality of death.
Same here. That was,
Bambi.
I'll tell you, that Bambi was the very first movie that my mother took me to see at the theater.
Yeah. Yeah. They did a revival of it. We saw the Aristocats. I remember that in the theater, and the Rescuers, and like we saw quite a few cartoons. And I remember in summer we go to Moncton camping. We go to St. John and we go to Moncton camping in Prince Edward Island. And I remember we saw Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome at the drive-in there, and there's various others that we had seen as well. And our drive-ins disappeared about the mid '80s, and then we started going to the theater. I think the first movie I saw in the theater was the Smurfs and the Magic Flute, which was released on a revival. Not a very good film because the Smurfs were not very identifiable in it. I didn't, and the animation was very repetitious, so didn't care for that. I liked the Smurfs cartoon better, but we saw that at the old Twin Cinemas. But that was with my mom, my younger brother, my aunt, and cousin. I remember that very well because I actually purchased a Masters of the Universe action figure that day. It was Stratos. I remember that very well.
Oh, yeah.
And then, but we didn't start going to the theater full time until 1987, where we saw Batteries Not Included. Oh, yeah. And that was also at the Twin Cinemas across the river. And I remember mom and dad asking how we like seeing movies like this. And hindsight's 2020. I think they were hinting that the drive-in was going to be no more because we had 2 or 3 of them here: the Valley Drive-In, the Sunset Drive-In, and I forgot about the Brookside Drive-In. I forgot about that, but I haven't been to a drive-in since the '80s. I wouldn't mind experiencing it again. I know Sussex, I guess, has one, but I'm kind of like, yeah, it's kind of nice to instead of looking over a car seat or somebody's looking around somebody in a car. I kind of like the idea of going to a movie theater and experience a movie with a whole lot of people, and my folks used to take me to the theater all the time, and it wasn't until 1994 that I just said screw it and started going by myself, and I remember it was The Naked Gun 33 and a Third, The Final Insult was the first movie I saw by myself, because my brother and I had seen 2.5, The Smell of Fear, and we laughed our ass off. But I was on my own and I was nervous about it, but I was like, you know what? I kind of want to see the movie because I liked Leslie Nielsen. And so, and then the summer of '94, when I was supposed to be job hunting, you get kind of bored sending resumes out the same place in a small town, and the theater was always open in the afternoon. So I ended up saying I was job hunting, but I was really up seeing Speed and True Lies and the various.
I was going to, man. The Client, that was another one that summer. I love Trouble.
I'll tell you what, the best experience of that year was my brother and I, and this was at the old Kmart Plaza, which closed down in it was actually on a Friday the 13th, December 1996. because they opened a 10 screener at the mall, which is currently where I go now. And that night I had seen Mars Attacks across the river. But I went to the grand opening the Saturday and saw Harriet the Spy, which was actually a great family film.
Mm-hmm.
But one of my best experiences at the Kmart Plaza was my brother and I attended the premiere of Dumb and Dumber. And boy, oh boy, we laughed so hard through that movie, you know? So, yeah, I think you and I shared a lot of similar experiences at the movies, very similar upbringings. But 1972, we were both born, and I'm going to tell you there was quite an interesting list of films released that year.
Yes. Yes.
The Godfather, Cabaret, one of the funniest comedies I ever seen. What's Up, Doc? Came out that year.
Yeah.
And then you had a lot of X-rated movies like Fritz the Cat.
Yes.
Pink Flamingos.
Yes.
Last Tango in Paris, I believe, come out that year. Deep Throat, Beyond the Green Door. Like weird.
Don't forget Alfred Hitchcock's Frenzy. Don't overlook that.
I've got that on Blu-ray here. Love Frenzy. It was second last film. By the way, I've had Alfred Hitchcock's granddaughter on the show in tribute to him. Yep. In tribute to him. And you have a favorite Hitchcock film?
Of course. Psycho.
I love Psycho. My favorite is Rear Window.
It's another good one.
Major crush on Grace Kelly, gotta say. But Psycho, I have an interesting story about because that was the first movie I attended at a midnight screening.
Really?
Wow. Yep, and that was again at the old Kmart Plaza the last year it was open. It was on a winter evening, but I remember when they had the posters up, it said, come and, I guess students were putting it on, and it said, come and see the film that scared your parents. Mm-hmm. That was 1996. And then, you know, I loved Psycho, and it opened my mind to look at other films because I wasn't looking at older films. I was looking at current films, but Psycho kind of got me into looking at other Hitchcock movies, and Hitchcock introduced me to James Stewart and Cary Grant, and of course, Grace Kelly. I love being introduced to Grace Kelly. But and then that opened doors to seeing other stars from the day, and I've got a lot of old movies here on Blu-ray, and so yeah, Frenzy I liked, especially that scene in the truck with all the potatoes.
Oh yeah, that's a shocker, that scene.
Yeah,
and the rigor mortis, and he has to break her fingers in order to get the pin out. Remember?
Yeah,
makes you squirm.
Yep. So that was a terrific film. I wish he got to make one more, because Family Plot was his last in 1976, and I think his granddaughter said that they were there's certainly talks about doing another one, but his health was really declining. But she was on set when he was doing The Birds, so she was able to tell me a lot about growing up with him. So that was interesting. I do tribute interviews when people have passed away, you know, and so I could still make them part of the show, because we're losing a lot of really terrific artists.
Yeah, we are.
Yep. So this is kind of a way I allow them to be part of the show, and I've done a lot of tribute interviews. So so I always open to that. I had Audrey Hepburn's eldest son on here as well, so that was interesting. So so I wasn't able to have the star themselves, but this really, I'll tell you something about that, because I'm affiliated with CHSR on campus here in the city, and UMB. And when I had Hitchcock's Granddaughter on in 2016, that was the first time somebody like my station manager was like, how did you get Hitchcock's Granddaughter? I've had some notable names on prior to that, but that was the first one that really caught them off guard. So I say tributes are a good way to go if somebody has passed.
Right.
It
Life can.
works. Yep. Yep. So besides Moonraker, what other films did you see in the theater when you were young?
Oh man, I could talk about this all night. I mean, Moonraker was really the one, Greg, that did it. I mean, that was when I saw that, I wanted to go again. Once wasn't enough. I wanted to see it again. And then after I saw the second, I wanted to see it again. And then I wanted to see it again. And I've seen the movie so many times, I can act the whole movie out without the damn thing running. I mean, the movie's going to be 43 years old, in June the 29th, that's its anniversary date. And, every summer I actually hold a screening, in my private theater for it. And I get a group of friends to come and we make popcorn and we all sit down and watch it. And it's kind of a great nostalgic trip for me. But other movies that got me going too, I mean, man, we used to, when we were kids, my friends, every summer, they would say, what was your favorite movie of the summer? So, of course, in 77, they were all talking about Star Wars. I didn't see Star Wars until 1978, and then that's summer 1978. What was your favorite movie? Well, I saw Grease at the drive-in. I went and saw that at the drive-in. So that was, my favorite movie, for that year. So you could say that was influential. Heaven Can Wait with Warren Beatty. I remember going to see that same year, 78, another great movie. But once I saw Moonraker, I was totally into the movies. I would every week get the weekly movie guides. I would know everything that was coming out. I mean, I was really addicted to the movies, and in the summers when we had all the theaters here in Wildwood, I can't tell you how many times I would go. I like Smokey and the Bandit too. That's another great one. I remember that was a sold out show, 680 seats in the theater over here. Okay. And at one part where, he says, hey, Daddy, look at that big, ugly alligator. He's like, well, that reminds me, I got to call your mama tonight. I remember that brought the house down. When you experience that, that was the first time I experienced something like that. That stays in your memory.
It's interesting you say that. I've interviewed a couple of people, actually 4 people from Greece have that on the show. Smokey and the Bandit, I had Susie Ewing, who was Hot Pants Halligan in the film, and I'm still in touch with her. She is awesome. And but yeah, there's a lot of great stuff like that. A lot of I wish I could have saw in the theaters, but thank goodness for revivals. Like when I was in Toronto, for example, in 2019 for Horrorama, I went to my first IMAX, and I went and I saw the perfect film for an IMAX. I saw Apocalypse Now on IMAX, and that was an experience, And I've seen Apocalypse Now screen before, but it's my first and so far my only IMAX screening was Apocalypse Now. And Toronto, of course, has opened that opportunity to see, because they got so many theaters you can see revivals of films. Like I attended a midnight screening of Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. And yeah, and that was interesting because people were really engaged with that film because of all the pop culture references and humor in it and whatnot. So I've had a lot of experience of that. I've seen Clockwork Orange the same year. I saw Psycho at a midnight screening. I saw that about 4 or 5 months later. And then I saw the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the old Chestnut Bar on Halloween 1996, which that bar is not open anymore. My one time in there was Halloween seeing Rocky Horror Picture Show. And then the first film I seen down at the university was Halloween Night, 1996, I saw The Exorcist screen down at the university in the Tilly Hall, and that was an experience. And I've seen The Exorcist a number of times since, but I've seen it 5 times on the big screen since, and I would have been only one when that came out, so I didn't see it in 1973. But it's always nice. I always consider when you see movies at the theater, it's like seeing it live.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep. Even if it's a revival, you're seeing it right up there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely can share that experience with you. And you mentioned seeing Moonraker so many times. That reminds me, in 2016, I actually saw a movie 9 times in the theater, and that was Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some, which I could not stop thinking about it, and I kept going back because it wouldn't leave my head. We only had it here for 2 weeks, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw it 9 times in that 2 weeks because it would be in my head the next day at work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd be like, okay, I gotta see it again. And I've interviewed 3 people from that film, and they're quite flattered that I've seen it 9 times in the theater. I love that film, and it got matched by Sausage Party, which I saw equally amount of times that year. Um, and I've interviewed Scott Diggs Underwood from that film, who did 4 of the voices in it. You know, so including Twink and Gum. So and he did the voices during the interview, which was awesome. So yeah, cinema is a lot of fun, and I now go about once a week now, you know, because you know, life expenses are too much. So I try to go once a week, but I did see X 4 times.
Any good?
Yes, for a horror film, yes. It's set in 1979. It's like Boogie Nights meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And it's set in 1979, and it looks like it was released then.
Wow. That sounds
Yeah.
cool. I'll have to check.
Oh, I enjoyed X, and I saw the new Nicolas Cage one a couple times too, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which I laughed at. But and I just recently saw The Bad Guys because I can relate to the premise of that film. Plus, I like snakes, and they had a snake in it, and the snake didn't have to be the bad guy in it. You know, I love the premise. All like how it talks about how perception can be deceiving. You know, and I have fun with that. Plus, you get a shark that is a disguise artist, and it fools all the characters, but it's so dumbfounded because we can see right through it. Oh, but nonetheless, but you and I had we're both celebrating 50 this year, and we both had a pretty similar upbringing in that manner. So yeah,
I was like,
it's kind of a great way to segue into you making short films, and you get a feature coming up now. What was your first segue into making a short film?
well, I mean, I wanted to make a movie really for the past, ever since really 1993. I knew I wanted to make films, and I got very lucky because I was at college at the time, and I used to collect Fangoria magazine. You remember
Yep.
Fangoria?
Oh yeah.
And I still have all my issues. And I was following at that time Anthony Hickox. You remember him? The director, Waxwork 2, Hellraiser 3.
Okay, I know those films. Yep.
So he was doing Warlock the Armageddon. And it was a creative writing class, and we were going to be doing dialogue. So everybody, they're going around, who do you want to interview? My mother, my father, they come to me, and the teacher says, who do you want to interview? And I said, Anthony Hickox. And everybody said, who? So I pulled out my Fangoria and held it up, and everybody just sort of just laughed that off. And a buddy of mine who's now deceased, Fred Aldrich, we were talking, and he was a lot older than me, and he says, Scott, why don't you just call information? Because back in those days, you could do this.
Uh-huh.
You could call information, was it the air 213-555-1212. And, he said, if you know where he lives, maybe you can get the interview. So I did it. And I remember it well. It was April the 21st, 1993. And this woman with a thick British accent took the phone. Hello. And I told her who I was, what I wanted to do and all. And she said, oh, that's so nice. She said, I'm sorry, he doesn't live here anymore. His mother. Now, when she says this, Greg, I know who this is I'm talking to. This is the Academy Award-winning film editor of Lawrence of Arabia. That was his mother, Anne V. Coots.
Oh, all right? Wow.
I'm like, well, can I talk to you before you give me his number? So I'm talking to her on the phone. We're having a great conversation, and here it comes. The end of it, before she gives me his number, she says, and I just finished working on my latest movie with Clint Eastwood. And I knew what it was. I said, In the Line of Fire? Because remember at the time, In the Line of Fire was coming out. He said yes, because she was the editor of that film. So she gave me his telephone number, and I called and I left a message, and he called me back, and he gave me the interview. He gave me the interview for it. And it was cool as hell, because he told me that Warlock was being delayed in its release because Fangoria had it coming out. And I think it was like April of 93. Like I was waiting for it at the time. And it was like, where is it? And he said, no, he said, the problem of it is he's having problems with the MPAA. Yeah, they kept getting it. They had to keep cutting the gore, so it was shuffled to September so that they could make the cuts, And it was an interesting story. I mean, I learned a lot just from the phone call. Like, he had told me about the script he was presented was like a soft fantasy. And he went into the meeting and he said to the producers, a soft fantasy. No, we're going to change it. We want a hard R-rated movie with lots of blood, guts, and gore. So, I mean, that was what he was told to do. So that's what he went and did. And then, they had to, cut it back. But in that call, he told me, I've already got my next picture lined up for HBO. And at the time, it was called The Pack. And it ended up being the movie Full Eclipse with Mario Van Peebles, and Patsy. It was at the time. So I knew right then when I was talking to him, and I stayed in touch with him for a few years, and he encouraged me. He really did. He really did. He encouraged me, and he said, it's not hard to do. He said, if you have passion and you got drive, and you have vision, you can do this. You have to stay focused. Which, I mean, when you're 21, 22, how are you going to stay focused? You know what I mean? It's kind of, you remember those days, right?
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and then, it just got to a point where I kind of knew the stories I wanted to tell. Of course, I was in my 30s at that point. So I figured, I knew how to write a screenplay. I mean, it was easy enough. I just hadn't done it. It was just laziness, really. So I sat down and I went to it. And I wrote my first script with an old friend of mine. And it was a children's film, like a family movie. And we wrote it. We copyrighted it. And I went on my own and wrote my first horror script at that point, feature length. And I copyrighted that. And then I think a few years went by. And then all of a sudden, this guy that I got in touch with was interested in the first script, that I talked about. And we had gotten into discussions about him, I guess buying the script. He thought he might have, connections and so forth, to get the movie made and all. But it was one of those things where, I remember just really at the time being like, do I really just want to let go? You know what I'm saying? But then of course the whole thing went away. All right. So I went back and I knew I wanted to tell a story about the Jersey Devil because I've never been happy with any of the Jersey Devil movies. And it's our lore here. I grew up hearing about it. So I sat down, I knew what I wanted to do. And I wrote the whole script and I copyrighted it. And, when you're not, when you're coming in, at this point, I had done documentaries. I had done local documentaries at that point. I had done one for Hunts Pier. I'd done one for Fun Pier. I had done one actually for my mentor, the late Jim DeMuse, I'd done one for him. And at that point, I really got on a roll. Like I knew the stories I wanted to tell. And then it was just a matter of, I just wanted to keep writing. You know what I mean? I just wanted to keep writing. I was on a roll. It's like I knew everything I wanted to say. I knew every character. I knew every point A, point B, point D, point Z. I knew the whole thing. So it was basically really just like a whirlwind of me just sort of going through notebooks like this, taking notes, and then just going to it and just getting on the computer and just basically staying home for days, cranking out these first drafts and proofreading it and rereading it and overthinking it and so forth, So A friend of mine, originally from New Jersey, had come and he saw my documentaries and he said, you know what? He said, I think you really have a lot of talent. He said, I think you really just ought to make a short film. He said, go to it. You've got it, And again, Jim DeMuse, my mentor said, yes. He said, I'm in. I mean, I'll help you. However I can help you, I'll help you. So I said, yeah. I said, let's do this. So I took my script for the Jersey Devil. I scaled it down into a short film. And I got my cameraman, Andrew, who would double up as my editor. I wrote it as just a four-man play, nothing big, nothing thick. And we went out there over the course of 7 days and 7 nights to shoot the movie, and we did. We shot them. Now, couldn't shoot it 7 nights in a row because everybody's working and has their own jobs. So we shot a couple of nights, had to go away for a week, come back, shoot again, come back and go again, until we had it done. And then at that point, we went into the editing process of it. And then we did that. And then I got a friend of mine, Bill Catarini, to come in and do the music score for the picture, and then by the time we got it ready and we were going to do something with it, COVID happened. So,
yeah.
So you're not going to be able to do much when there's a pandemic and everything's being closed, Greg.
Yeah, the pandemic was quite the thing. I had to tell somebody that represents one of my guests today, because he approached me and because I sent him the link to his interview, the YouTube link, and he says they can't find it online. And I said, that's because it's unlisted. I said that for later publication. I said, you can post it though, and people can see it. I had to tell him that when I first started doing these interviews, my former station manager, before she retired, she told me, she goes, don't release them right away. She said, save some for a rainy day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it turned out the rainy day was COVID, because when COVID hit and the station went into lockdown, I had no way of doing my show. But luckily, I had about 150 plus interviews in my backlog to release. I usually release one about every 5 days or something like that. And like your interview probably won't go public for a while, but you'll get the link beforehand. You can post it on Facebook or wherever you want to post it. But but it was Nancy McLaughlin from Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, who introduced me to Zoom. And I've been cranking them out ever since. But I do agree, because I've seen podcasters that do this who put them out right away, and then they, rather than savor the interview that they just done and their accomplishments, they're right now on to trying to find their next interview. And it's like, rather than enjoying the fruits of their labor, they're already thinking about their next one without really reflecting. So that's why I do that. So I hope nobody gets discouraged if their interview is on unlisted for a time. But like I said, they get the link. If you put it up on your website or whatever, people can see it. They just have to click the link, or on your Facebook. That's, so there's definitely an outlet for it to be seen, so yeah.
Now, do you do interviews, or does it just all go at once like this?
It's like this. Now, when I did it at the station, I did it by phone. And I would either call the guest or they'd call me. The first one I did was with Tommy Wiseau from The Room. And that was what's interesting. That was the first. And I got it through an acquaintance of mine. And that just kind of popped up. And after that one, it was like, if it had been one and done, it would have been fine. I would have continued to do film reviews and play music on my show like I always did. But after Tommy Wiseau was such a great experience, he was very odd, but it's Tommy Wiseau. But after that was like, who else can I do this with? And I remember my mind went way back to when my uncle used to own a video store. And I was thinking about all the women I had crushes on growing up. And I was like, wonder if I can get any of them to come on here and talk to me. And well, I remember I remember I had reached out to Adrian King from Friday the 13th, and I reached out to Lisa Langlois from class of 1984. Adrian got back to me on that long weekend in May and agreed to an interview. And I was at my brother's apartment on his wife's computer at the time. And I remember reading Adrian's response, and I just kind of leaned back on my chair. Like, wow. She said yes. Lisa eventually responded, and Lisa has become a great friend because she invited me to assist her at my first HorrorCon. So she and I are still very much in touch. So she showed, like, I'd never been on a plane before, never been out of New Brunswick really, until Lisa asked me what's stopping me from traveling, and she invited me to Horrorama in Toronto to assist her at her table. And she and I have been friends ever since. And when every year I go to Toronto, I always connect with Lisa, and we go to dinner and catch up, you know. So that's where this is kind of gone.
Uh-huh.
And you're number 600, so I took it and went with it, you know. Tommy Wiseau to you. Anyway, I got off topic there, but you mentioned COVID and how it just screwed everybody, you know. Yeah. And I still worked during COVID because I don't make money at this.
Yeah,
I do this for fun. I'm actually a cleaner. Mm-hmm. So I cleaned all through the pandemic, you know. So I was one of the essential workers. So, but nonetheless, cleaning or not, I miss doing this. So I was glad the outlet was presented to me, and I'm able to do this. So knock on wood, I'll keep able to keep me do it, you know.
Yeah, you know, it's a great thing. No, really, it is.
Yeah, but you had mentioned that COVID happened and knocked your scheduling out of whack, as did everybody. So where's the story go from there for you?
Well, what happened was I continued to write, and I was putting together a different kind of movie for my second one. I figured do another short movie, you know, because we had a good time doing Lost in the Night. I mean, we really did, you know. Like I said, you know, it was basically, you know, 7. I mean, you know, it was some days, some nights, you know, but we had 7 shooting days in that. And of course, then the editing takes like another 7 days, you know. And so I figured, you know, since, you know, almost a year had passed, I figured, you know, I wanted to do another picture. So I had an idea that I would do more of like a, you know, like a mafia kind of movie, like an action movie, you know, something different, you know, not good. So I wrote a script, and I started to get a lot of interest. It was really kind of crazy, you know. And this was during COVID. I mean, this was when COVID was, like September 2020, and it was just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was doing rewrites. I don't think I ever did so many rewrites on one of my scripts before this one, and I think I had it. I mean, yeah, Greg, I started out with like a 22-page script, you know, short. And I think the last draft, in fact, I know the last draft they turned in was like 101 pages, which, you know, that's a mammoth, you know.
It's like Dan Aykroyd writing the Blues Brothers script.
So a friend of mine, you know, because like I said, you know, COVID had the world shut down, and I have friends in the film business, and everybody was sort of hanging around. So this buddy of mine, I sent the script to him, and, you know, he looked at, oh, I love cats. I have one myself.
Skittles just came around here. This is Skittles. Black and white cat. Yeah.
White cat.
Skittles come around here, and everybody loves it when Skittles comes on screen. Skittles is like, you're embarrassing me. You're exploiting me for views.
He loves it.
Exploiting me. And I said, Kitty, you're living here for free.
Right. And all this exposure they're getting, you know?
Oh, sorry for the interruption, but you know what?
That's all right. Hey, that's all right. When the cats want to talk, let them talk.
Yeah. Now he's
So,
turning around, rubbing against my fingers, so all's forgotten already.
so we put that to the side, and I'd started another one, and it was at that time that Jim DeMuse passed away, and he and I were talking about doing a werewolf movie, and we were just like starting to figure this thing out, and then out of nowhere, last February, I got the news that he passed away, and I let it go for a while, and then I kept thinking about it, and I had the idea, and I said, what, I think I want to honor his memory. I want to write this script, and I want to get this picture made. So I wrote it as a short. I just figured it'd be another third short movie. I wrote a 21 page script, and again, I brought my my partner in these projects, Andrew, Boylan, with me, and we were talking to makeup effects people, and they liked the script and felt that the script should have more. They thought it should have more. It could use more character. It could use more action. It could use more kills. It could use more gore. It could use more. So I was taking the notes that they were giving me, and I did another draft. So we went from like 21 pages to 42 pages, which, at that point, you may as well just, suck it up and make a feature-length picture.
Make a feature length. And
exactly.
Know what? Werewolf movies, do you have favorites?
Not many, but I have two. There's two I can tell you. The Howling, and the other one is I Was a Teenage Werewolf. They're really the only two that I really, I think that are just great.
I've interviewed Belinda Pulaski and Dee Wallace from The Howling.
Yeah, I've met Dee.
I've met Dee as well. In fact, she's in 13 Fanboy, which I'm a co-producer on. But I met Dee, and I remember the week I met her, I was scheduling Belinda Pulaski. I've had Belinda Pulaski on here 5 times. I love Belinda. And Belinda, I know, was under the weather when I had messaged her about it. But I remember when I met Dee, I said, I told her about it. She goes, "Wish Belinda well for me, please." But yeah, Dee was great. But I love The Howling. But I also love An American Werewolf in London.
Many do. I know many do. It's all right. I prefer The Howling. Remember, that was summer '81, Full Moon Fever. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Had The Howling.
Full Moon Fever. And there was Wolfen.
Mm-hmm.
There was Wolfen, and there was Full Moon Fever. There were a lot of werewolf movies in '81, but and I liked all of those. But I think my my favorite was American Werewolf in London and The Howling. They were both terrific, both very different looking werewolves as well. And so yeah, but yeah, I would definitely encourage more werewolf activity on your part. So talk about the script, talk about the story.
Lycaon, that is the title of the movie. And
Okay.
it's basically Lycaon of Arcadia, Greek mythology. I like Greek mythology, just so that I'm a huge fan.
One of my favorite movies is the original, not the remake, the original Clash of the Titans.
Me too. Same here.
Love it.
Yep, same here. Absolutely. Yep. Saw it in the theater, summer 1981. Yep.
I saw it screened a few years ago here. I've had somebody on that worked with Ray Harryhausen. Mm-hmm. And we talked about Clash of the Titans and the Golden Voyage of Sinbad and the lovely, beautiful Caroline Munro and all that stuff. And but yeah, you mentioned Greek mythology, and Clash of the Titans, of course, had that 2-headed dog in it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what kennel Medusa got that from.
Yeah, right. The kennel of hell, I guess.
Yep. But tell me about the story behind this movie.
Well, the story it's pretty interesting. We are in a fictitious little town in New Jersey that, I conjured up in my imagination. It doesn't really, it's kind of like a Haddonfield, Illinois, and of course, that's Haddonfield, New Jersey, I'm sure you knew. So we have my own little fictitious setting here. And what's going on is something that I think is very much in league with the pandemic, anxiety disorder. Okay.
Okay.
So many people suffer from anxiety. You know what I mean? I myself suffer from anxiety. So, I think that alone is where I started to get more interested in this and not having to play by all the usual rules. You know what I'm talking about? Like, in other words, maybe we don't always have to have a full moon. Maybe you don't always have to have that full moon, and, why would a person or perhaps these people become werewolves? Why? And we have this whole story going on with these psychiatrists. It's a little town, and we have these two psychiatrists, and the one guy has been there, throughout his whole life. He's kind of the good doctor and friend of everybody that, no matter where he goes, everybody knows this guy. And then you have this other fella who's only come into town recently, but he's claiming that he can cure anxiety. All right. He's claiming that perhaps he can cure it, with guaranteed results, So this is where we have this. You basically have your yin and your yang. You understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we have these two psychiatrists, and in between it, these poor people that suffer from this anxiety disorder, and the fact that people are being savagely murdered in this town by, perhaps some sort of an animal, werewolf. Or werewolves, there could be more than one. I mean, that's another thing too. You're always trying to guess, is it how many, is it 3? Is it 5?
Kind of like the Scream effect.
Sort of.
There's more than one perpetrator.
Most likely there is, but how many? Now, maybe it's just 2, but then again, you want to know what, maybe it's just 1. That's another, it's really a psychological thriller. It was something that, as I was rewriting the script, we came up, when we were talking about it, we decided that, the werewolf will, or werewolves will make appearances sporadically, throughout it, because it's very low budget, film, it's very low budget. This isn't a Hollywood production. We're an independent, production here. So it's basically good storytelling. Luckily I was able to get some very good actors on the picture. I was very fortunate with this movie, and, we were shooting, our schedule, would get delayed because, we had the Omicron variant, which had to come in, and everybody in January seemed to just get it, so it was like, I had to go out for 2 weeks. Then Andrew had to go out for 2 weeks, and somebody else had to go out for 2 weeks, and somebody else had to, So it was like, we figured we would be finished shooting this picture in January, starting, shooting in mid-November, but here we went all the way until March the 27th. So we've only been finished, shooting the movie over a month, and, we all work other jobs. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we just go and edit the movie every day. I would love to, it'd be great, if we could just do that, but, So the movie basically, if I had to sum it up, I would say most of this has to do with anxiety disorder.
Okay.
And you're going to meet some very interesting characters in the movie. I think we have a very really good throwback movie, like a very traditional throwback movie, something, to kind of make people remember those 70s and 80s movies that we all had fun with, Greg, was, interesting characters, a really good suspense, music score, it has a lot to do with everything as well. Without the music, you really don't have much of a movie, And I've also tried, I like to make my movies very stylish. So I like to basically have different colored lighting in scenes. All right. And I figured for this movie, with the moonlighting and all, I figured it should be a lot of blue light. You know what I mean? A lot of blue light, maybe give it some fog. We have scenes where it's heavy fog, and it reminds you, like when I was looking at the playbacks and all, we were all getting excited. We were all saying, wow, it kind of reminds you of, those movies that we grew up on, you saw back, in the 70s and the 80s, they would turn on, you'd be like, oh, wow, what's this, So, and right now we're editing the picture. We're still in the early stages of it. We have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of footage that we have to go through. And the other thing that's interesting is throughout this, my next picture is looking to be greenlit already. It looks like I've already got interest in another movie. All right, after this one. So, and I already had a script written for that. I had written a first draft a few years ago. Like I said to you, I've written, I think if I had to do my tally, I think I've got 9 screenplays written altogether. All right, at this stage. And I still got this notebook filling up with ideas as well for some additional stuff. So, but anyway, we're hoping, I'm already talking to some distributors. I went to the New Jersey Horror Con and met some wonderful people there, very supportive people there. We've already secured our first sponsor for my next movie. I already have interest because we've cut the teaser trailer, we've cut already for Lycaon. We have cut it. I've sent it only to the interested parties for distribution at this point. And they've all basically gotten back to me and said, it looks interesting. You know, we definitely would like to see the rough cut of the picture. So this is good news. You know, yeah. I mean, you know, just to be able to get to that point where, and it's all 3 of them. The 3 that I sent it to all got back to me, and it was basically all the same, you know, the same answer. They'd like to see the rough cut. You know, so I mean, it's been a great journey. You know, this was you know, I mean, like I said, there's always problems. You know how it is when you shoot movies. You know, things are always kind of changing sometimes. You know, and especially when you're doing takes, you know, with actors and so forth. You know, a lot of times when we'll get into rehearsals and all that, I kind of like the actor or actress to kind of find the character. So I don't mind if they're going to switch up my dialogue a little bit to be more natural to how they are. You know what I'm saying? But it's always something. When we're rehearsing, they're always like, well, Scott, is it all right if I say it this way instead? And I'm like, what do you want to say? So they'll tell me, and I'm like, I don't care how you say it, as long as you get the point across. You know what I'm saying? But I always say, just try just one, you know, with my dialogue. Look, this way, when we're in editing, yeah, we can see the options and all that, you know. And so that's that's basically, you know, how that one went. You know, we had makeup effects in this, all practical. We're going to have there's going to be some visual effects in this one too. I've got a guy that's going to be working on the visual effects. In fact, I was talking to him earlier today. I was updating him as to the process. And it's really cool, man. I mean, it's really cool, you know, when you have people that, you know, are very supportive and are very interested, and, you know, they like what they see, you know, and they like what they hear. Like when I went to the Horror Con, I was talking to the sponsor, you know, the one I was mentioned for the next picture. And I also have a production designer working on that. And they wanted me to meet this actress. I don't want to say who just yet. And I met her in person. And she said, tell me about the movie that you want to do. And I told her about the movie. I told her the plot. I told her the part I had in mind for her. And she said, you're very passionate. I like that. She said, where's the NDA? So I gave it to her. She signed it, and I emailed her the script. So that's exciting too, because, you know, like I said, I mean, we'll see what happens, but, you know, it's exciting, you know, I mean, to have, you know, an actress you've seen in several movies, you know, basically saying, I like you. I like your pitch. I like your story. Let me read your script, you know?
That is awesome. So your feature's all shot?
Yes, sir. It is.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. One of the things I hate is and this has happened, when I get people on here who are making either a fan film or a feature film, and they're going on Indiegogo to fund it, but we never see an end product, you know? I love the fact that you got it all shot and you're in post-production. So I'm like, great. That's even better, you know? So your werewolf that you have in this, I'm going to assume it looks similar to the Howling Werewolf, does it not?
Maybe. It's a good guess. I'll just leave it at that. It's a good guess, Greg.
That is a scary looking werewolf, I gotta say, standing up on its 2 feet, you know?
Well, I think the werewolf really needs to be biped. I think, for me personally, I mean, this is me. I just speak from, you know, my point of view. When the werewolf's down on all fours, I don't see the human side of it anymore. You know, and that's what I didn't like about Werewolf in London. Now, I mean, Werewolf in London is a great movie. You know, I mean, it's a landmark film, great special effects and all. I just really wish that it had arched up on its 2 legs, at least at some point, to give me that feeling. Because anytime I watch it, I just never really feel the connection to the human side of the character. You know, I mean, that's
that's understandable. Yeah, I never heard that side of it before. Yeah.
Yeah, I relate, I think, so that's why with me, like, I always remember, like, it's so funny, you remember your childhood, and I used to watch Creature double feature on Saturday,
Mm-hmm.
when and I remember they would do it like the old movies, like they would play like Dracula's Risen from the Grave, and then there'd be a preview for I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And when you heard that title, you would laugh. You were thinking, oh, it's a comedy, I want to see that. It's going to be funny. And I just remember really seeing that movie, and it kind of spooked me, man. I mean, that one really spooked me. It's very dark. It's a very dark movie for the 50s, with Michael Landon and all, and the thing of it is too, I mean, I think the conviction of the character that he played, Tony, and then when he's the werewolf, especially remember the end where he's foaming at the mouth, and everything. It's just, when you're like, I think I was maybe 6 years old when I saw it or something like that. It really stays with you, you know what I mean? Because you didn't expect it. You expected a comedy, So I think, that was kind of like a part of my motivation on this too. I figured, if we could do something like that, something similar to that with a little bit of the Howling going on in there, we could really have a good movie. Keep it suspenseful, keep it stylish, and keep it interesting. That's really, I think, the main goal. And it's like, I kept reading the script. Like, I read my scripts over and over and over and over. I'm an overthinker. So I just keep reading them. I'm like, is it enough? Is it not enough? Do I need more? Do I need less? I'm like, no, you know what? Just shoot it. And then we'll find out, and we're putting this thing together, and I think the same thing is going to be going on with my next picture, which I will confide in you the title.
Okay.
It's called The Black Tent, and it will be another horror film.
Nice. What's it gonna be about? You want to tease us with that?
I'm just going to say this. It's got to do with magic, man-eating demons.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I have a special effects guy that I've been talking to that's interested in the picture. I think we're going to go with him. I already have a composer set for the picture as well. It's actually somebody I always wanted to work with. I can't believe I have him. I really can't. And he actually read the script and he said, it's great. I love it. You have a little bit of everything. This is an awesome script. I already have ideas. In fact, I'm going to send them to you. And it was like, he sent them to me and it's like, I'm listening. And I'm like, oh my God. It's like, it's like, that moment in life, like, yes, somebody gets it. You know what I mean? And, and even the production designer that I have, I always thought to myself that if I did this picture, it would have to look like a Tim Burton movie. It would have to have odd angles. It would have to have production design. It would have to have, the stylish lighting like I like to do. More Dutch angles, more, tilted angles, things like that, to really kind of that feel that I'm looking for. And my production designer that I'm working with, a very creative, extremely talented man, from Boston. He's read my script several times, and every now and then I'll call him and say, I have another idea. I think about this, I think about that. I'm going to show you what I drew. What do you think of this? What do you think of that? So I mean, we're really having a great time developing this picture. We really are.
So talk about the effects in the werewolf movie.
We went practical.
Yep.
It's everything that we've done so far. There's going to be some visual effects in it. I don't want to say too much because it's not done yet. And I'm still kind of, organizing things, in folders, to try to get better ideas. So I don't want to turn around this early and say one thing when we turn around and change it. And if it ends up being something else, you know what I mean? But we've got plenty of footage. I mean, I shot an abundance of footage for this movie. Some of it really looks great. We have some very good performances in this movie. Like I said, Jeff Sharkey, who plays one of the doctors in this movie, is a fantastic actor, stage trained actor. I'm very, very lucky to have him. And Kevin Ebner, who's already done a couple of short films. In fact, he's getting ready to do another one here in New Jersey called Bloody Spurs. I think he just got a part in that. He was telling me about the other day. And of course, he'll be returning for The Black Tent as well. I'm definitely going to, continue working with him, another great actor.
Okay. What about the actors?
In Lycaon?
Yep. I'm actually looking it up here. Is there an IMDb for it?
Not yet. No, we
Oh
haven't
no.
posted.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'm looking it up. I'm looking up something that's not on there yet. Okay.
It'll be on there very soon. In fact, probably next week. We're working on that right now. Like I said, I kind of really wanted, since we were really just ready to go, we had everything we needed. It was just like, let's just go do the movie and we'll take care of that at the end. Because we didn't have to go out. We didn't have to go out for an Indiegogo or anything like that. You know, we
Nope.
were in shape to just go and do this picture.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and I just basically felt, you know, we all felt, let's just do it, you know, and we'll get there. So yes, we will have an IMDb page. We will have a Facebook page. We'll be an Instagram page for that as well. But the actors are very good. Jeff Sharkey, like I just said, you know, he's the star. He's the star of the film. He plays one of the doctors, you know, one of our psychiatrists. Matt Stabile is making his debut as an actor, playing the other doctor. Kevin Ebner will be playing one of the patients, one of the anxiety disorder patients.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And possibly. Okay. And another debut was Stephanie Coffey. And she was somebody that I just figured maybe for the smaller role in this picture. And, you know, it's really something, you know, I kind of really had wished I had tested her earlier because, you know, for a first time, her acting was so good and so natural, you know, that she was just able to come in and just really knock it out like in like one or two takes, you know, kind of like Jeff and Kevin did. And, you know, when you have that, it gets really something because you do two takes and it's like, should we really go ahead with three? You know, but it's like, you know, yeah, you know, you just want to go on. But we have them in it. Another new one is Candace Nolan and Lorena Love, both very good. Both did a great job on the picture. As you know, I may or may not know, I'm in the picture as well. You know, I'm in there, you know, playing one of the people, one of the anxiety disorderly people. Okay. You know, Stephanie, Kevin and I, and a couple of other people, Lorena's character. And we have Kevin Shelley, you know, playing the part of a very obnoxious character. You know, he's kind of like that guy where you're just not sure whether he's just the guy you want to see get killed off, or this is actually the main werewolf we're dealing with in this movie. You know, he's a very unlikable character in this, you know. So that's it for the main actors. We have Chris Saunders playing a small part of Bill. He's the local guy that is covering the news, you know, on the pod, the town, and trying to tell everybody to stay inside, keep safe. You know, we don't know what's going on, you know. So, but that's our actors in it, you know, that we had. You know, I think we ended up with 12. I think there was a dozen of them altogether.
Okay. So after you're done this one, how soon do you move into your next?
Well, until we're finished the development process. All right. Because I've already delayed this one because I really felt that I was going to be changing my style with the Black Tent. I really have a strong vision for this, and I know exactly how it looks. And I already had some of the roles already in my head cast. So once I met up with these two producers and they read the script, they said, you know what, maybe we can do this, you know? And I said, okay. I explained everything I wanted to do. And they said, all right, well, start it up. Let's, you know, see where it goes, you know? And that's where we are. Like I said, I've already got the composer set, I've got my production designer set, I've got my stars set. I've got a few of the roles that I'd already had pre-cast. Everybody is pretty much, you know, so far it's really amazing. It's been like just straight across the board. Yes. You know, it's been really amazing at this point, because this will really be, it'll be second feature film, but it'll be the fourth, you know, my fourth picture, you know, as writer director, you know. And it's a much bigger movie too. It's going to have a lot more cast involved. And I think, you know, I definitely think, like, you know, when we move forward with it, I think I'm probably going to be looking for a really good, sharp cinematographer for this one, because I really think it's going to be important for what I'm looking to do, you know. And but we're developing it. I mean, we're still in first draft. We're not at a point yet where we're ready to go to a revision, but I'm already getting the notes. The notes are finally starting to come in about it, and they're very interesting. I mean, it's a very, I think it's a pretty. I think we have a really interesting story with the Black Tent. I think that was one of the reasons why I kept delaying it. Like, I really needed like the right people to come in. It had to be like, I couldn't just, go out there and say, okay, all right, this will be the one we're going to do. What does everybody think? Is everybody ready? Yes, we think it's great. Let's go out there and just do the best we can. It was always sort of like with this one, it's got to be the best. You know what I mean? This one's really like, it's like in here with me more. I mean, not that the others aren't, but, the development process alone is going to take quite some time. I think, depending on how things go, and how soon we can get Lycaon into a final cut, which I don't see anytime in the near future. I really don't see it happening before the 4th of July, because there's so much work to be done on that, in order to do it. And I don't want to rush it. I don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
I really don't. And, ideally, if we can keep to this schedule, which, schedules can be, that can change them. It would be great if we could start shooting this thing in October.
You had talked about the cons. Now, I did my first con in 2017 with Lisa Langlois, and it turned out to be a fantastic experience. As I've done 3 horror-ramas and hopefully a 4th this fall. I've done 1 Frightmare in the Falls and 1 Toronto Comic Con. I would like to know who you've met at the cons. Who was your greatest experiences meeting?
Kevin Tenney.
Okay.
Met him at the first con I went to in 2017. It was in, I think it's Island, New Jersey is the name of the town. And I got there, and I remember I met him, and I couldn't believe there was really nobody. I mean, few people came afterwards, but there was nobody at the booth. And we were talking, I was doing Lost in the Night at the time. And he was awesome. I mean, he was telling me all kinds of things. He was telling me all about when he made Witchboard, and he was telling me about different things. He was giving me like secrets, like things even at that time that I didn't know. He was really opening up to me. And, again, he said the same thing. I can still remember he said the same thing. He's like, you've got passion. He's like, if you got passion, he's like, you can do it. Trust me. He said, just continue to believe in yourself. So, and make sure that you make the movie you would want to see.
Yep. And any other notable people you met that stood out?
He was definitely number 1. Let me think of really stood out at the cons.
I'm going to tell you one for me. It was that Frightmare in the Falls. I got to say, Felissa Rose is totally on all weekend. I say anybody that is attending a con that she's at, go meet her. Definitely go meet her.
Yeah, she was there at the last one a month ago that I went to. Felissa Rose.
Oh my goodness. She was worth the price of admission alone. She did a shout out for my brother, who was taking care of our terminally ill parents at the time. And, and she didn't have to do that, but she did. And she gave everybody a big hug, and she was just engaging. And I remember when the doors were closing on that last day, she still had a bit of a lineup. I guarantee you she signed for every one of those people. Guarantee it. Yeah. She was busy all weekend, and easily one of the coolest people I've met, and I'm hoping to do another one with Lisa, because she and I have continued to be friends. And like I said, if I do a con with somebody, it's usually with her, so I loved her. And I've met quite a few. Dee Wallace was a cool meet. I'll tell you another one was Lynn Lowry from I met her at Horrorama 2018, and it was the first time somebody gave me their phone number and email right there, because I told her about my podcast. And I didn't get her on the show until last year, and I was the first podcast she had done.
Mhm.
So yeah, I gotten a lot of signed stuff from her, and she still looks good to this day. And so she was great to meet. My goodness, who else? There's so
Barry,
many.
Bos-
Huh?
Barry Bostwick.
Haven't met him. I'm gonna tell you though, the one person from Rocky Horror that I've interviewed, that I've been able to contact and interview, was Little Nell,
Mm-hmm.
and she lives in Australia. I had her on in 2015, that first year I did it. She was the first one I interviewed in Australia, and that was quite a thing to figure out that time zone. Because the one thing I tell people, figure out your time zones when you're doing an interview. When they say such and such a time, it's such and such a time, their time, not your time. You know, I know people that screwed that up. So I've interviewed a few people from Australia since, but I had Little Nell back on last year with a Zoom, and I could hear all the noises in Australia in the background, and she was very colorfully dressed and so cool. She was my favorite part of Rocky Horror Picture Show, just very sparkly, very colorful, and
Uh,
her red hair and whatnot. So
mhm.
yeah, yeah. But I'd love to get more from the movie on here, so I'm open to that. So yeah.
Now, what horror movies did you grow up on, Greg?
You know what? I was afraid of horror films growing up. I was petrified, you
Until
know?
when? Until when?
Well, I'll tell you the backstory. Every Friday night, they used to have a horror film on late at night.
Uh,
And I remember some of them I've since revisited because I'm not afraid anymore. But I remember, Salem's Lot played.
yeah.
And I remember a couple scenes like that that scared the living crap out of me.
Oh, yeah.
Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things played. That scared me. And another one was Horror High. And it's interesting because I found that recently online, and I had Pat Carty, who is the tormented turned killer in the movie, on my show. And I said, now I'm facing my fear, Pat was a wonderful guy, and in fact, when I had Pat on, it was the first time I embraced my job of being a cleaner, because it's not always the most glamorous job people look at. And he said he swept stages and stuff like that back in the day. And I was like, I just really embraced it after that, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And so I had Pat on here, and those movies scared me. And I would always end up sticking them out because I am to this day a big component for good over evil. I believe in good over evil. I like to see. I don't like seeing evil win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand the mentality. Of that. I like to see. I believe in good.
Yep. Me too.
And so my older brother always hung out with my cousins. Just one set of my cousins. And I mentioned that my uncle had a video store. They used to watch horror films, and I was frightened, and I'd always end up watching because I got to see the killer getting his his comeuppance, and so I remember one day I got talked into, and I remember this so well. I got talked into watching Friday the 13th Part 2. That was a learning experience because you had like three kills in the film, but it was a moment that Kirsten Baker went skinny dipping where my mom came in and shut the television off. Kirsten Baker is the first woman I've ever seen naked. And that was when I first realized. And I would have been, I don't know, I would have been 9 in 1981 when that came out. So when did I see that? I might have been 11 or 12 or something like that. And at that age, I wasn't interested in dating and girls. I was, still into action figures and stuff like that. So what had happened is that, that was the first time I noticed that, gee, women look different under the clothes. They don't have anything down there like we have. I did that. They do have something down there, but you get my point, But my cousins were like drooling and oohing over her in the water and jumping up, and her breasts are exposed and into the water, and they thought it was funny, and they were hooting and hollering over it. My mom didn't think it was funny that I was in there watching it with them, but I was watching kind of like this, because it's like, here we got this beautiful young woman skinny dipping, and she's like vulnerable, and there's this killer with a sack over his head running around with a pitchfork killing people. So anyway, after mom had turned the television off, my cousins managed to go in and turn it back on again about an hour later. I wasn't going to watch the rest of it, but I'd seen this killer, Jason, I guess, I was like, I needed to see him die. Anytime a woman was by herself, I was like this. Yeah. Of course, women today, will, excuse my language, fuck you up. So yeah, right. It's like now it's like, doesn't matter whether it's male or female, But I remember when Amy Steele, it was just her. I was like, oh my goodness, where's Paul? Where's Paul? Like Paul would have made a difference, And of course, the end of the film leaves you with a cliffhanger, and going home. Like, I felt cheated, as like, oh my goodness, he's still out there. And going home, I was in my car and I was like, I'm going to have nightmares. I'm going to have nightmares, because I kept having images of a guy in a wheelchair getting a machete in the face, a couple in a bunk bed getting shish kebabbed, and not easy images for that young,
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And my cousins thought it was a joke. Me, I was petrified. And my older brother would have rented a lot of the Friday the 13th ones were big,
Yes, they were. Yep.
And my uncle his store went from 1981 to 1988, and he had the first 6 in the store. But the originals cassette tape was busted, so we never saw that until I was in junior high. And we never saw part 5 and 6 at the store either, but we saw parts 2, 3, and 4. Mm-hmm. We had those. And my older brother made a comment to me that makes a lot of sense. He said, Greg, you're kind of a hypocrite. You will watch Conan the Barbarian, which has blood and guts all through it, but you won't watch a Friday the 13th film. And I'm like, yeah, but Jason's not fighting Conan.
Right.
Because if Jason was fighting Conan, I'm not sure Jason would win.
Right.
Yep. Like, I mean, it was him and one or two other people taking on that army at the end of the film. And, I mean, Paul Holt, John Fury in Friday the 13th Part 2, the last guy in the film, like, he wasn't built like Arnold Schwarzenegger either, But I wasn't afraid of Conan the Barbarian or the Beastmaster, because you felt secure with Conan or the Beastmaster. You felt secure. But my brother had said to me, because he knew I liked good over evil. So he said to me, Greg, watch Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Just watch it with me, because the parents were out. I watched it. I was grossed out through a lot of it. I watched a lot of it like this. But I came away not unhinged. I think the final chapter is the scariest one of the franchise, although I think Jason Lives is the best one of the franchise. But final chapter is the scariest because I think Ted White played Jason the best out of anybody. He was terrifying, and I loved him as Jason. I've had him on here twice. But I remember Jason got taken out of the picture by young Corey Feldman.
Yep.
And I was kind of like, oh, okay. So I eased into it. And we watched another night when the folks were out, we watched parts 2, 3, and 4 all back to back.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of got the bug.
Uh-huh.
I got the bug. And that's how it happened. So I like all kinds of movies. You know, I love all kinds of movies. And my favorites are horror films and teen comedies.
Yep.
You know, but I love comedies in general. I like very artsy movies like The Big Lebowski, American Beauty, and movies like that. I really like films like Kubrick, you know, Hitchcock. I've really kind of like expanded my vision on what I like. But yeah, that to answer your question in a very long-winded fashion, Friday the 13th Part 2 kind of had an impact on me there. Plus, good job, Kirsten Baker. Of course, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, you had like Judy Aronson pulling her top off there, skinny dipping. You had two twins carrying Camilla Moore in there. And you're kind of like Corey Feldman there when he comes down there where they're skinny dipping, trying to get the dog. You're like, wow. I'd be watching this. I'm like, I'm not supposed to be watching this. Not supposed to be watching this. And I'm like, I'm hoping no adults are around. But here we are, 50 years old now, and it's like it's old hats for us now, you know.
So hard to believe sometimes when you think back to the memories, you know, it doesn't seem that long ago, you know.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, I've got the steel book of Friday the 13th Part 2 here now, and now it's like I can still get into the spookiness of it, but it don't scare me anymore, you know. And I love going to the horror cons because the fans are so passionate, you know. And here's one thing about the Friday the 13th franchise too. There was at least one woman in every one of them I had a crush on, you know. So
beautiful.
That always helped, you know. It would be even better if Jason would leave them alone, let them live. But yeah, it was wonderful. I remember seeing Class of 1984, being frightened by that, and Lisa Langlois is now a dear friend.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. So I got the bug.
Yep.
And now I look back on it quite fondly, and I enjoyed the experience. That's not to say there's stuff like I don't want to watch a Serbian film. You know, I don't want to watch that because that's apparently an extremely gross outfit. There's films like the Hostel movies. They're well made. I'll give them that, but I can do without that level of violence.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah, I could do without that. You know, I really liked Saw, but there's some of the sequels in there. I'm like, you know what? I'm not scared by this. I'm just disgusted. It's like they're trying to make me throw up.
Yes.
Stop, you know, stop, you know. But then again, Hitchcock, there was a big difference between Psycho and Frenzy. Frenzy showed nudity.
Yes.
You know, Frenzy was about the close he came to an axe, I think, you know.
So.
Yep. So that's my story. How did you get into not being afraid of horror films?
Well, I'll tell you, I would watch the Friday the 13th because I didn't find them as scary as Halloween. You know, the first Halloween really freaked me out.
You know
Okay,
what? I
and I
didn't
saw it when
see
it first aired on NBC back October 30th, 1981,
I didn't see
and that one
Halloween
really
till
got me.
years
And
later.
I definitely was staying away from horror movies for a while.
Yeah.
Right,
I didn't
and
see
then
Halloween till years later. Yeah.
okay, and then I stayed away for a while. But you know what one I really wanted to see, and I remember it played. It was 1985. That was the last year that we had the classic movie theaters because after that, the Hunts had sold the theaters and they all got cut into like twos and fours and everything. Fright Night with Chris Sarandon, and I really wanted to see because the poster's so cool. You know that poster, even though it's scary as hell, it's cool. I have the poster; it's in my room. Okay, and I really wanted to see it. I was 13 at the time. It was in August 1985. And I just kept thinking about it. I couldn't go see it because it was rated R. Remember, you couldn't go into R-rated movies, when you were 13. So you had to wait. And thankfully, we had VHS rentals. So the following summer, I remember I went in and rented it. And I brought it home to watch. And it was scary. I remember being like really afraid at certain parts. But, the movie was just had a coolness to it. You know what I mean? It had a cool look to it. It had great angles, had a great music score, by Brad Fiedel. Chris Sarandon is always great. He's always great. And Roddy McDowell, the way he played that, the Peter Vincent, the fearless vampire. But then in reality, he was terrified. He was like the biggest coward. I mean, you can relate to things like this. So it really made it, kind of scary, but in the same breath, interesting, and that's the movie that broke me through because that was the one I really always loved that movie.
Okay, I'll tell you this. I didn't see Halloween till years later. I think Halloween's a masterpiece for a horror film. I love Halloween. And if you ever get a chance to meet Sandy Johnson, who played Judith Myers,
Just met her last month. Met her last month.
I love her. She's been on here 3 times.
She's great. Yeah.
I love her. What was your experience like with her?
Well, she was just here at this New Jersey Horror Con, and I went over there and I started to talk about Halloween. And we were just, it was a nice conversation. I was telling her, it's like I'm telling you about my experience when I first saw it, how I was afraid, and, the whole bit looking through the eye holes when she's getting killed, and then you see it's the little boy pulling off the mask, and you you had that, like, you don't expect that. And, it's always so funny when you talk to people in that movie because they, that movie was so low budget, and it was so like, everything, nobody knew what they were creating. Nobody knew, So, but it was, she was really nice. She was really sweet. She really was, it was a really nice experience meeting her. It wasn't very long because she had a pretty long line at her table. So I didn't want to hold up too long, but good 10 minutes talking with her.
I love Sandy. I hope to get to meet her, but I've had her on here twice as a solo, and I had her on here once earlier this year with her husband, because I wanted to hear his story about being introduced to these cons because she goes there with her, and he kind of shares similar stories as I did at my first con going with Lisa. But you mentioned Fright Night. Fright Night's my favorite vampire film.
It's
And
great.
I want to get an interview from that film. I've been trying. I love Fright Night and I love the soundtrack too.
Me too. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
Fright Night's my favorite vampire movie by far. And yeah, that has a great poster.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm totally with you on that. Very seductive music. The remake I didn't think was terrible, but one of the things the remake was lacking was the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that music was important.
Yes. It made the movie. It really helped make the movie.
Yeah.
That theme, Come to Me, which they play, all throughout the movie. I mean, it's hypnotic. You know what I mean?
It is.
And it kind of like, you remember, Greg, remember the Christopher Lee vampire movies like Dracula's Risen from the Grave? Remember the
I've
eyes?
interviewed Veronica Carlson, who we sadly lost. Yep, yeah. I had her on here in 2017. Lovely lady. She talked about being part of that movie.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always remember that. I think that movie there too played a part with me because I remember on the Creature double feature, some of the shots in that are very, really well done. Like the rooftop scenes with the clouds and everything, with the rays of the sun and all coming around it. Remember when she's like running across the rooftops and all? Yeah, I think I remember, my preschool days, catching that one, and I was afraid of it because Christopher Lee's pretty imposing, in that movie.
Yeah.
It was one of those movies. It just looked so beautiful. You couldn't stop watching it.
Well,
It was really, yeah, it was almost like an art house film. I mean, it really was,
absolutely. Absolutely. Do you got any charities that you want to plug and promote on here, or a website where people can catch up on what you're doing?
Well, we don't have a website, all right, yet. It's going to be going live soon. Like I said, I had anticipated doing all this, and once I got Lost in the Night out there, I figured we would go at some festivals and all, then put the website on and all. Then COVID happened, and but then we did this picture, Lycaon, and this picture is, we didn't have to go for fundraising. Like, I don't mean to repeat myself, but we were able to make the picture, so there wasn't any point to go into that. And I figured I just really wanted to get this picture finished, before I went into all this, before I went into the website and all that, because I really kind of feel that I need to remain focused, through it. And I just get concerned sometimes that if I get caught up, on a website or something, I'm going to lose the focus, you know what I mean, before I get the product finished. So that's the main reason why. I mean, I've been asked this, twice now, all within the past 2 weeks, never before, but just in the past 2 weeks. And, but we will have the website up soon. There's going to be a website just really, I think, just for the movie itself, like Hyena, like I said, Lost in the Night's a short film. It runs 29 minutes. My hope is, though, that maybe, after, God willing, we get the Black Tent finished, that I can actually realize the full version of Lost in the Night and make my feature,
nice. Do
my
that
feature version. Because what I did was, that was a script I wanted to do, and it's an adult movie. It's a very adult film. And to do it as a short film, I just did a variation of it. So I made it more about kids, kind of encountering it. So I took like a little subplot from my main script and just made that the subject of the short film, But I mean, I don't pull any punches as far as the fact that, so many of these Jersey Devil movies, it ends up being a serial killer or something like that. Well, in my picture, it's the Jersey Devil. I mean, we really go into the whole lore and the whole bit of it, and a lot of hocus pocus and nonsense. And well, maybe it's not, maybe it's not, just really kind of get things going. But the feature length version of it, I was rereading the script the other day before we went into our editing session for Lycaon. And I got finished reading it, and Andrew, my editor, said, "What are you reading?" I said, "Full script I had for it." He said, "Oh," he says, "Can I read it?" I said, "Yeah." And he read it. He says, "We really got to make that one day." And I was like, "Yeah, we do."
Yeah. Well, I don't know how long we've been talking, but isn't it interesting? I didn't know who you were until you sent me a friend's request tonight. I always tell podcasters, because a lot of podcasters will only interview the bigger names.
Mm-hmm.
I find I have a sense of accomplishment whenever I interview somebody like you and I get 90 minutes or 2 hours out of an interview, out of somebody I had just met tonight,
Mm-hmm.
So I was delighted that you reached out to me, and I was happy to do this. And I'm going to put you on my roster for 2023 to have you back, because by then you'll probably have a finished product.
Oh, yeah. I think, hopefully, I mean, if everything goes according to plan, we should hopefully we'll get a distribution deal, in place by the fall for Lycaon. And hopefully we'll be getting Lost in the Night out there to be seen as well. And if all goes according to plan, we'll have already filmed the Black Tent by the time 2023 goes. So, be a lot going on, probably by that point. But all the same, though, even, without this, I would like to stay in touch with you regardless.
You know what? Stay in touch. I was very happy to have you on here tonight. Like I said, when this video goes up, it'll be unlisted. Don't be put off by that. It'll eventually go public, but you can post it on your social media, because unlisted or not, people will still be able to see it and watch it, you know? So I had to tell people that because I have to have a backlog. I was warned about that early, and COVID turned out to be the rainy day. I'm glad I did it. But because even though I got Zoom here, I never know what next will happen, you know? So always got to be prepared.
Yes.
But anyway, Scott, it was wonderful having you on here tonight and talk about this. And I loved even still going back and sharing our past, because you brought back a lot of memories for when I grew up, and I'm thinking it was quite similar for you too. So this has been a lot of fun. I'm glad that we connected and I was able to do this interview tonight. You're number 600.
Number 600. There you go, man.
There you go. So you're the one that's issuing in the next century of numbers on my podcast, you know. Knock on wood, hope all goes well. So yes. So anything else you want to plug and promote before we close off?
Well, my book, my first published book came out about, I guess, 10 years ago, Fun Pier, because I'm a local historian as well. And like I said, I did some local documentaries, and I had co-written the book for Fun Pier, which got published, and that's on Amazon.com. And, you know, it's also from the Arcadia Publishing, you know, and, you know, one of these days I'll get around to writing a second book for that, you know, when I have a few minutes in between films, you know. But yeah, that one got published, and I'd like to, you know, put that out there. You know, people would be interested in reading some of the historical facts of, you know, the amusement industry here in Wildwood that I follow, you know, and record. And I'm very active on the Historical Society, you know, giving them information, you know, about our town and, you know, helping to preserve the history. In fact, I usually am on here in my groups, you know, you're from Wildwood When and the Wildwoods, New Jersey, you know, always posting in there. And of course, I have my historical films group where I can reminisce with people about movies like we just did now, you know, and connect with a lot of people through that, because, you know, and yeah, that's basically where we are, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Scott Hand, it was wonderful having you come on here today. Are you related to Mr. Hand from Fast Times at Ridgemont High? Aloha. My name is Mr. Hand. You related to him?
I don't know.
No?
Such a big family, you know, down here, because my cousin, you know, who's actually the producer of Lycaon, he is our family genealogist and our family historian. He can trace our family back to when they came to America off the Mayflower. And, you know, he has this whole map drawn up of where we descend from and who we descend from and what part of England we come from. And, you know, and he's written, I think, about at least a half a dozen books, you know, just about the Revolutionary War and about Captain Elijah Hand. And every time we get together, he's always saying to me, you know, Hand Avenue was named after our family, you know, and I say, yes. You know, I know. We got a Hand Avenue in Wildwood. We got a Hand Avenue in Cape May Courthouse, both named after our family during the Revolutionary War.
But you also have Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
On high.
Yes. I was wondering, are you related to Mr. Hand?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my cousin. He always tells me I can trace everybody except this one hand that was a realtor here. So I don't know. I'll put that to him.
I loved Ray Walston in that movie. He goes, "Can you attend my class?"
It's a great movie. Classic film.
Love that film.
We had a Mr. Hand also in Dark City. Remember Dark City? Did you see that one?
I did see that one. It's been a while. What a great movie. Jennifer Connelly. I mean, yeah. Jennifer Connelly, easy on the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Dark City was great. I mean, it was from the guy who made The Crow, but I think it's better than The Crow.
I kind of agree with you on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like both of them. I really enjoyed both very
But
much.
Dark City has got like The Crow is pretty straightforward, generic narrative, whereas Dark City, there's a lot more going in there. You really got to pay attention to it. So yes, plus it's got Jennifer Connelly. What a beautiful one.
Jennifer Connelly, right?
There you go. There you go. Well, you know what? It was wonderful. On that note, we shall conclude. I had a wonderful time talking to you. And like I said, I'll get this link out to you as soon as it's ready. And feel free to post it. And yeah, I'm glad we're connected on Facebook. So I'll be able to see what your updates are all about.
Right. You got it, Greg.
Yes, absolutely. Before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Sure.
Just state your name and say you're the mastermind behind Lycaon, and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
I am Scott Hand. I am the mastermind, writer, director, actor for Lycaon, and I am been with Greg Gilbert of Python's, what is it? Python's what?
Paradise.
Python's Paradise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've had fun reminiscing.
Absolutely.
Because we're both celebrating the big 5-0. He's already made it.
Yes.
I've got a little over 2 months to go, but it's coming. I know, because I got to go into a physical at the end of the month, and I'm like, oh, gee, is this the year they're going to stick their finger up my ass and stuff like that? I'm like, yeah.
Getting older isn't always a wonderful thing, but hey, it's the only way we can go. We've never figured out another way. So,
well, as long as there's cute nurses there, I can be fine.
That's just true. Yes.
Yep. I'll leave it at that, because they're the ones that jab you with the needles.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't even like that, but
no.
Yeah.
No, they're not fun.
No. Although I've learned to just look away. I would always learn to look away, unless the nurse is really cute, and then you can't look away. Could look like Kirsten Baker, could look like Jennifer Connelly.
Yeah.
Could look like Grace Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's going to be no looking away from that.
Could look like Morgan Fairchild. Remember Morgan Fairchild?
My current favorite right now is Emma Stone.
Oh, yes.
I love Emma Stone. She's not just good looking. She's appealing in everything she does. I liked her. I haven't liked all of her films, but she's always interesting. Even watching her interview, she manages to be interesting to watch. But she sounds like somebody you want to hang out with, So yeah, I love Emma Stone. But on that note, I bid you a wonderful night. And we're celebrating the 600th episode on here, and you bring it in. You know what? Awesome. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Great. Glad I was the guy to do it, Greg.
Absolutely. Best of luck to you. Bring us a great movie. I'm sure you will. And keep me posted.
Will do, Greg. It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too. Bye, my friend.
Bye-bye.